The large silver ship landed on the glowing landing pad of Virelia Prime, the capital city of the Virelian Empire. Lights flashed, flags waved, and alien nobles stood in rows, wearing bright robes and shining jewels. Everyone had come to welcome the special guest. From the ship stepped a tall human in a black uniform. His name was Jason Ward, a respected human ambassador and former pilot. He walked with calm confidence, but his eyes were serious and sharp. The alien crowds clapped as he walked past. Jason nodded politely, not smiling. Above the crowd, hidden behind a tall pillar, stood a young alien woman with glowing purple eyes. She was beautiful, but one could see her body was not like the others. Her arms and legs were supported by thin, silver mechanical braces. Her steps were slow. She leaned on a cane made of crystal. Her name was Princess Thalry, daughter of the Virelian High Queen. Many called her weak. Others whispered about her being unfit for the throne. But Thalry didn't care about their words. Her heart was not here for politics. She was here for him. She watched Jason walk by without noticing her. Her hand trembled slightly as she held her cane tighter. Her mind echoed with memories from long ago, memories she never forgot. 5 years. Earlier, Thalry stood at the edge of the Great Hall of Choosing, her head bowed low. Other alien princesses stood tall and proud beside her, strong, healthy, perfect. They smiled with sharp teeth and glowing skin. Thalry looked small beside them. A young human pilot had been invited that day. Jason Ward, fresh from battle, hero of peace. The ceremony was simple. He would choose one royal maiden as a symbol of alliance and future unity between species. Everyone thought he would pick Princess Viretta, tall and skilled in combat, but he didn't. Jason had walked straight past all the others. He stopped in front of Thalry and smiled. "You're the only one not pretending," he had said. Thalry had looked up, shocked. "I choose you," he added, and offered his hand. She took it, and from that moment, everything changed. Now, in the present, Thalry stood in silence as Jason walked past her without a single glance. He didn't remember her, not even a flicker in his eyes. Thalry turned away, heart heavy. She made her way slowly, down the quiet hallway behind the grand welcome stage. Her mechanical legs clicked softly against the marble floor. Behind her, the grand ceremony continued. Inside the palace guest quarters, Jason stood in front of a mirror. His hands touched his temple where an old scar marked the side of his head. The ship crash. That's when it happened. He had lost part of his memory during that accident 3 years ago. "Any updates on the Virelian royal family?" Jason asked, his AI assistant. A soft voice responded. "Records show 13 princesses. 1 remains out of public appearances. Thalry Virelia. No recent photos." Jason paused. "Who is she?" "Former heir candidate. Suffered a degenerative condition. Not considered in line for the throne now." Jason frowned. The name felt familiar. That evening, at the royal banquet, the queen stood and welcomed Jason to her planet. Bright lights flashed, music played, the crowd raised golden glasses. Jason smiled politely and gave a short speech. "I'm honored to be back on Virelia," he said. "May peace and trust continue between our worlds." The nobles clapped, but one person did not. In the corner near a pillar stood Thalry in a dark robe, her cane in hand. When Jason finished his speech, she began walking toward him, slowly, carefully. She passed laughing nobles and curious guests. Some gasped when they saw her. Others turned away. She didn't stop. When she reached Jason's table, she stood quietly, her eyes locked on his. He turned toward her. His smile faded. She spoke, her voice soft but strong. "You once chose me," she said. Jason blinked. "I'm sorry?" Thalry straightened herself. Her mechanical braces let out a soft hum. You don't remember. But years ago, during the choosing ceremony, you picked me. Everyone laughed, but you held my hand and called me the strongest one in the room. Jason stared at her, his eyes confused. I don't remember that. Her lip trembled. I waited. I believed you would come back. Jason began, but no words came out. Thalry turned and walked away slowly, her cane tapping the floor like a ticking clock. Jason stood, frozen. Later that night, Jason sat alone in his chamber. His hands opened a small data chip from his old missions. He searched. He found a locked folder named Virelia, Peace Ritual. He opened it. A hologram appeared, dusty and half-damaged, but still clear. Jason's younger self laughed in the image, holding hands with a younger Thalry. She wore the same braces, the same quiet eyes. I will return for you, the hologram Jason said. The real Jason's eyes widened. The recording faded. He leaned back in his chair, heart pounding. I chose her. He whispered the words aloud, like a secret. Outside the window, 2 moons shone over Virelia. Somewhere beyond those towers, Thalry was awake, remembering everything, and Jason, he had just begun to remember. The next morning, the sky above Virelia Prime was painted with soft orange and pink. The twin suns were rising slowly. The royal palace stood high over the clouds, its golden towers glowing in the morning light. Inside his guest chamber, Jason, Ward stood at the window, holding the old data chip tightly in his hand. His eyes looked tired, as if he had not slept all night. The short video, the one where he smiled with Princess Thalry, kept playing in his mind. I will return for you, he had said in that recording, his own voice. But he had forgotten. For years, Thalry had waited, and he had not even remembered her name. Jason let out a long sigh. Elsewhere in the palace, in a quiet garden behind tall crystal walls, Thalry sat alone in her floating chair. Her cane rested beside her, and the small healing drone buzzed near her shoulder, scanning her for muscle pain. She stared at the water pond in front of her. Soft purple fish swam slowly under the surface. A soft voice spoke beside her. He looked surprised last night. It was caretaker Enli, an older female alien who had raised Thalry since childhood. She sat down gently beside the princess. Thalry didn't look up. He doesn't remember, not even a little. Not his fault, Enli said. His records show he suffered brain damage during a crash. I know, Thalry whispered, but I kept his words in my heart. I thought they meant something. I thought I meant something. Enli placed a hand gently on Thalry's arm. You do? Whether he remembers or not? Thalry looked up. Then why do I feel like I'm invisible again? Later. That day, Jason asked his AI assistant to open his old private logs. He searched for anything about Virelia. Anything about Thalry. Nothing but minor entries, the AI replied. Most video and mission logs were erased after the memory incident. Try recovered data, Jason said. One by one, broken files opened. Static-filled clips. Voice messages with missing parts. But one short entry stood out. A blurry audio recording. She was kind, brave. They all stared at her like she was broken. But I saw fire in her eyes. If this is real peace, I want her by my side. Jason listened to it 3 times. His own voice. His old thoughts. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his face with both hands. Why did I forget someone like her? At the royal hall that evening, a small meeting of noble houses was held. Jason was invited as a guest of honor. The Virelian queen, tall and proud, welcomed him again. Alien lords and ladies gathered, dressed in glowing silks and feathered cloaks. The room sparkled with power and pride, but whispers filled the air. Is it true he chose her? One noble said. The disabled one? Another laughed. Maybe it was just a human joke, a third added. Thalry entered the hall slowly, supported by her cane. Her dress was simple, her silver braces polished. As she passed, the nobles fell silent. She walked with her head high. But, inside, she felt the weight of every stare. Jason saw her from across the room. His chest tightened. He walked over to her. "May I join you?" he asked gently. Thalry looked up, surprised. "You want to be seen with me?" Jason nodded. "Yes." They sat at a quiet table in the corner. After a pause, Jason spoke. "I saw a recording of us. I saw me choosing you." Thalry's eyes widened. "You did?" "I still don't remember everything," Jason said slowly. "But I saw how I looked at you. I heard the words I said." Thalry swallowed. "And what did you feel when you saw them?" Jason looked into her eyes. "Shame, regret, and something else I can't explain." For the first time, Thalry gave a small smile. "You told me I had the strongest heart in the room," she said. "No one had ever said that to me before." Jason looked down at his hands. "I wish I could say it again. With memory, not just evidence." Thalry touched her chest. "You said it with truth back then. That's enough." Later that night, Jason walked alone in the palace library. He searched old Varelian records. He wanted to learn more about the princess he had forgotten. He found poems she had written as a child, speeches she gave when she was still the heir, photos of her before the illness took her legs. She had been strong once. She still was. Then he found one last file, a personal letter from Thalry to the Human Council, written 4 years ago. Title: "Do Humans Forget Their Promises?" Jason read every word. Each one was filled with pain and hope. The final line made him stop breathing. "He chose me when no one else would. And even if he forgot, I will always remember." The next day, Jason asked the Queen for permission to speak to Thalry privately. In a small sunlit room with tall windows, they sat facing each other. "I want to know you again," Jason said. "Not as an ambassador, not because of duty, but because I once chose you, and maybe I still would." Thalry looked at him quietly. "Are you saying this because you feel guilty?" "No," Jason replied. "I'm saying this because I feel something real, and I want to earn your trust again." Thalry's eyes filled with tears, but she did not cry. She simply nodded. "Then start by walking with me," she said, holding out her hand. Jason stood, gently took her hand, and walked beside her. Her pace was slow, her steps uneven, but he matched her speed, and in that moment, something between them felt like the beginning of something new. The golden sun of Virelia shone down on the royal palace, but inside its shining walls, dark whispers moved like silent wind. Nobles gathered in corners, pretending to drink and laugh, but their eyes were always watching, especially when Jason, Ward, walked beside Princess Thalry. "It's true, then," a noblewoman whispered. "He's spending time with her." "Why her?" someone asked. "She's broken, useless. She shouldn't even be seen in public," said another, voice filled with poison. Behind thick curtains, behind fake smiles, the royal court was not kind. Thalry could feel it, the way people stared, the way silence followed her like a shadow. Her legs, supported by silver braces, moved with quiet clicks as she walked the grand halls, but she no longer hid. Jason walked beside her almost every day now. He spoke softly, smiled when she laughed, and asked questions about her favorite things. "What did you dream of before you were chosen?" he asked once. Thalry thought for a moment. "I wanted to be a star mapper," she said. "I loved the stars. They don't care if you walk or float. They shine the same." Jason looked up at the sky. Maybe we can go map some together. Her heart skipped. But not everyone was happy about their time together. Princess Vireta, Thalri's proud and perfect cousin, watched them with cold green eyes. She stood tall, dressed in shining armor, always followed by other nobles. "She is dragging down the royal image," Vireta said to the queen one morning. "The humans will laugh at us." The queen, who had grown tired and quiet over the years, simply said, "Jason chose her once." "Then maybe that was a mistake," Vireta replied sharply. "A mistake that should be corrected." Later that day, Thalri entered the royal garden alone. She wanted to smell the star lilies and enjoy the quiet, but Vireta and 3 others were waiting there. "Well, well," Vireta said, standing in front of the flowers, arms crossed. "Look who finally crawled out of her dark room." Thalri stood tall. "Do you want something?" "Yes," Vireta sneered. "I want you to stop pretending. You were never meant to be a princess. You're not strong. You're not smart. And that human? He only feels sorry for you." Thalri clenched her cane tightly. Her voice was calm. "I don't need to be perfect to be worth something." Vireta stepped closer. "You are a burden to this palace, and the more time you spend with the ambassador, the more you make us all look weak." Before she could say more, a voice came from behind. "Then maybe you're the weak one, for being afraid of her." Jason stood at the garden gate, his voice clear. Vireta turned in shock. Jason walked to Thalri's side, looking at the others. "Do you really think strength is walking straight and speaking loud? Then you've never been to war. Real strength is surviving when everyone wants you to fail." Vireta stepped back, furious, but said nothing. She turned and left with her followers, her pride wounded. Thalri looked up at Jason, surprised. "You didn't have to step in," she said. "Yes," Jason replied. "I did." That night, Thalri sat by her window, looking up at the stars. She thought of all the days she had spent alone, all the nights she cried quietly, wishing someone would see her as more than a broken girl in a chair. And now, Jason had not only remembered her, he had stood up for her. A soft knock came on her door. It was Jason again, holding a small silver device. "I found something," he said, entering. "It's an old message you recorded, but never sent." He pressed the button. Young Thalri's voice spoke through the air. "Dear Jason, you might never come back. Maybe you forgot me. But I want to say thank you for choosing me, even just for one day, for seeing me. That one moment kept me alive during the darkest nights. I won't forget, even if you do." The message ended. Silence filled the room. Jason sat beside her. "I don't deserve your kindness." Thalri shook her head. "You gave me hope when I had none. That matters. It still does." They sat together for a long time, saying nothing. The stars above them blinked softly, as if listening, but peace never lasted long in a palace full of jealous hearts. 2 days later, Jason was summoned to a secret meeting. The queen was not present. Only the royal advisors, Vireta and other nobles, sat in a half-circle. One advisor stood. "Ambassador Ward, we must ask you a question. Plain and simple." Jason nodded slowly. "Go ahead. Do you truly intend to renew your bond with Princess Thalri?" Jason looked at them. "Yes." Gasps echoed through the room. "She is unfit for marriage," another noble said quickly. "She cannot produce heirs," someone added. "Her condition makes her a weakness." "What if the galaxy laughs at Varelia?" Jason stood tall. "Then let them laugh." Silence. He looked at each of them, one by one. "Where I come from, we measure worth by heart, not by legs or bloodlines. She is stronger than any of you give her credit for, and I would be proud to stand beside her." He turned and left the room without waiting for permission. Behind him, angry whispers rose. But something else stirred too. Doubt in the minds of those who had always looked down on. That evening, Thalry received a message scroll in gold wrapping. It came directly from the Royal Council. She opened it, read it carefully, and looked up. Jason walked in at that moment. "What is it?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "They want me to attend the next Royal Summit as a speaker. For the first time in 5 years." Jason grinned. "Are you ready?" She nodded. "I was born ready. They just never gave me the chance." Jason offered his arm. She took it. Together, they walked toward the future, step by slow step, heart by brave heart. The Royal Summit Hall was full of light, music, and voices. Important leaders from many planets had arrived. Some wore robes of shining silk. Others wore armor made of crystal and steel. Flags of many worlds hung from the high ceiling. This was the biggest political gathering in years. But the most surprising part? Princess Thalry was one of the main speakers. Her name was printed on the silver invitation cards. Her image, braces, cane, and all, was shown on the floating screens. Some nobles stared in disbelief. Others whispered in corners. "She's actually going to speak? I thought she was forgotten." No, he remembered her. In her room, Thalry sat quietly as caretakers helped her dress. Her outfit was a deep blue, the color of royal heritage. Tiny stars had been sewn into the cloth. Her hair was tied back, showing her proud eyes. Her braces had been polished. Her cane was carved with new symbols, words of strength and hope. Jason entered, dressed in formal human attire. When he saw her, he stopped. "You look like the queen already," he said, smiling. Thalry chuckled softly. "Let me survive the summit first." He offered his arm. She took it. Side by side, they walked to the grand chamber. When they arrived, the room went silent. Everyone turned to look. Cameras floated quietly, recording every moment. Jason helped her onto the stage, then stepped back, letting her stand, alone. Thalry looked out at the crowd. Her cane tapped once on the floor. Then she began to speak. "I was not invited to speak for many years. Many thought I was weak, broken, useless. Some still do." Whispers filled the air. But one person saw something different. He saw strength where others saw failure. He reminded me that being different is not a curse. She paused, her voice steady. "I do not stand here to ask for pity. I stand here to remind you all. True leaders are not the ones who walk the fastest or speak the loudest. True leaders rise after every fall." The crowd was quiet. Then, slowly, one noble clapped. Then another. Soon, the hall echoed with applause. Jason watched from the side, his eyes filled with pride. Later, after the speeches, Thalry stood by the balcony with Jason. The stars had begun to shine in the darkening sky. "I never thought I would speak. In that room again," she said. Jason looked at her. "You belonged there all along." Suddenly, a loud alarm rang out through the palace. Red lights flashed. Panic spread quickly. Jason grabbed his communicator. "What's going on?" A voice shouted from the other side. "Unknown ships just entered orbit. Weapons detected. It's an attack." Jason turned to Thalry. "We need to move. Now." Outside, the skies of Virelia burned with fire. Enemy ships, black and sharp like blades, rained down plasma bolts. The peaceful capital turned into chaos. People screamed. Guards ran. Buildings shook. Jason rushed to help the queen and royal family escape underground. But in the chaos, he was separated from Thalry. A huge explosion shook the palace tower. Jason was thrown into a wall. Dust filled the air. He coughed, stood up, and looked around. "Thalry! Thalry!" But she was gone. Elsewhere, in a quiet hall. Near the royal hangars, Thalry had taken shelter with a group of injured workers. Her cane lay broken beside her. She looked at the frightened faces around her. "We have to get out," one said. "The upper palace is falling." "But the exit tunnels are blocked," said another. Thalry looked around and took a deep breath. "I know another way," she said. "Follow me." She stood slowly, her braces whirring. "But Princess," one worker said, "you can't." "I can," she said. "I will." Jason reached the hangar, wounded but still able to walk. Smoke filled the air. Suddenly he heard mechanical footsteps. Then voices. From the smoke, Thalry appeared, leading 20 frightened people behind her. Jason ran toward her. "You found them," he said. She nodded, out of breath. "They were trapped. I couldn't leave them." Jason looked at her, amazed. "You saved them." She looked at him, her eyes shining through the dust. "We're not done yet." Suddenly, another explosion hit nearby. A falling beam crashed. Down. Jason pushed Thalry out of the way, but the beam fell on top of him. "Jason!" she cried. He groaned, trapped under the metal. Thalry's hands shook. She looked around. Nearby stood a defense suit, built for her body size, a special armored frame designed to support her weak legs and arms during emergency situations. She had never used it. Now she had no choice. Moments later, the smoke cleared, and out of it came Princess Thalry, inside the powered defense suit. Her braces were connected to it, giving her full strength. She moved like a warrior. She ran to Jason, lifted the beam, and pulled him out. Jason looked up at her, stunned. You're incredible." Thalry smiled. "You said I had the strongest heart in the room. Maybe it's time I showed it." They helped the others escape into the safety tunnels. As enemy ships rained fire above the city, Thalry stood tall, blocking flames with her shield, guiding others through the smoke, shouting orders like a true commander. By the time Allied ships arrived and forced the enemy to retreat, the capital was burning, but still standing, and at the center of the survival efforts was the disabled princess who no one expected to lead. 2 days later, the palace was calm again. Cleanup crews worked across the city. The news across the galaxy shared one story again and again. Princess Thalry saves royal city. Disabled heir leads rescue of dozens. Human ambassador fought beside forgotten princess. Inside her room, Thalry sat quietly. Her suit was gone, but the glow in her eyes remained. Jason entered, his arm in a sling. "I heard you saved more people than the Royal Guard," he said. "I just did what I had to," Thalry replied. "No," Jason said. "You did what no one believed you could do." He walked up to her, then knelt in front of her chair. "I remember now," he said. "The choosing, your voice, your laugh, the day I held your hand." Tears filled Thalry's eyes. Jason smiled. "And I know this. If I had to choose again, I'd still choose you." He took her hand gently. Thalry whispered, "Even after all this?" Jason replied, "Especially after all this." A soft breeze passed through the royal garden of Virelia Prime. Flowers were blooming again. The skies were clear. The city, though still damaged from the attack, had started healing. But the biggest change wasn't in the buildings. It was in the hearts of the people. Everyone now spoke of Princess Thalry, the forgotten daughter who had become a hero. Children called her the Shield of Virelia. Soldiers saluted her in the halls. Nobles who once ignored her now lowered their heads in respect when she passed. And the queen, her own mother, called her forward to speak in the grand throne room. Jason stood beside Thalry as the royal ceremony began. Hundreds of guests from across the galaxy had gathered. Even human leaders arrived through portal gates, dressed in their finest uniforms. The queen, wearing golden robes, stood from her throne and raised her hand. "Years ago," she began, "my daughter was seen as weak by many. But in the hour, of greatest danger. It was her courage that saved us all." Whispers of agreement moved through the crowd. "I now restore her title," the queen said. "Princess Thalri shall be the heir to Virelia's throne, as it was meant to be." The hall filled with loud applause. Jason looked at Thalri, her eyes wide with disbelief, her lips trembling with emotion. She had waited so long to hear those words. Later that evening, a celebration was held under the stars. Floating lights danced in the air, and music echoed across the city. Thalri sat on a high platform, watching everyone enjoy themselves, but her thoughts were far away. She thought about the lonely years in her room, the shame, the stares, the pain, and the one moment, Jason's choice, that changed everything. Jason stepped onto the platform, holding something small in his hand. "I've been thinking," he said. Thalri turned to him. "About what?" Jason smiled. "About how I once chose you, even when everyone thought I wouldn't. And then forgot," she added softly, though not unkindly. Jason nodded. "Yes, I forgot. But now, I remember everything, and I want to make the choice again, with full memory and full heart." He got down on one knee. Gasps rose from the nearby guests. Music faded. All eyes turned toward them. Jason opened the small silver box. Inside was a glowing ring, made from Virelian crystal and human metal, joined together. "Princess Thalri," Jason said clearly, "I once chose you without knowing the future. Now I know the future I want, and it's with you. Will you marry me?" Thalri stared at him, stunned. For a moment, she forgot to breathe. Then, slowly, she stood from her seat. Her mechanical braces clicked softly. She took the ring with shaking fingers, tears falling down her cheeks. "I choose you too, Jason," she whispered. "I always have." The guests burst into applause. Lights lit the sky. Musicians began to play again. In the days that followed, Virelia changed more than anyone had expected. New laws were passed that allowed heirs with disabilities to rule. More care centers were built for children with health problems, and a large space station was named after Thalri's childhood dream, Star Mapper 1, a place for people from every planet to study the stars, no matter their background or body. Jason and Thalri were married in the Moonlight Garden, a place once closed to her. Now, it was open wide, filled with people of every kind. Human and alien leaders stood side by side, watching as the princess walked forward, not carried, not helped, but walking on her own, supported by her braces, her heart, and the love of the man beside her. On their wedding night, Jason and Thalri stood on a quiet balcony, far from the crowd. She looked out over the city, now peaceful again. Jason touched her hand gently. "Do you ever wish things had gone differently?" he asked. Thalri thought for a moment, then shook her head. "No," she said, "because every scar, every lonely night led me to this moment. And in this moment, I'm not just a princess, I'm me, finally seen, finally loved." Jason smiled. "You were always worthy. I just had to remember." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "And now," she said, "the whole galaxy remembers too." Years later, legends would be told of the human ambassador who chose the disabled princess, of how she became a queen who ruled with fairness and courage. Children on distant worlds would act out her story with toy canes and star-mapping scrolls, and somewhere among the stars would float a message carved in crystal. "You once chose me, the disabled alien princess you forgot, but you remembered. And you chose me again."